All right, we're all good. I would like to call to order this April 18th, 2024
Recording
meeting
in progress.
of the Home Rule Commission. And with that, we can move on to preliminary matters, and I will turn it over to Matt to take the roll.
All right, thank you. Chair Dalton Villette.
Here.
Vice Chair Mike Foster. Here. Commissioners Clint Folsom.
Here.
Jeff Chu. Heather Craycraft.
Here.
Claire Dixon.
I believe she's on Zoom.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chris Hansen.
Yep.
Ryan Hitchler.
Here.
Ryan Welsh.
Here.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Excellent. Do I have a second?
Second.
Excellent. All those in favor of the agenda, approving the agenda, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. With that, we are going to be beginning our public hearing. This is our first and only scheduled public hearing on the Home Rule Charter. And before jumping into our presentation that we have prepared, I wanted to give a chance for each of us to do some brief introductions. I thought name, interest in home rule, and if you held any sort of previous positions or current positions in the town, that would be excellent, just to inform the public. I thought we could maybe start down here with Heather.
Thank you, Dalton. Heather Craycraft. I'm former executive director of the Superior Chamber of Commerce for 13 years and here to represent the town as we put together what I believe, after spending a few months with this committee, a fantastic document.
Thank you.
All right, my name is Ryan Welch. I, before this, have served the town on the Open Space Advisory Committee, 6 years on that committee. I've also done some volunteering within town on other wildlife and weed clearing type of programs. And yeah, I'm here to, same with Heather, just trying to get the best document we can together to serve the town.
Ryan Hitchler. I'm probably the most junior as far as experience with governance within the town, but happy to be here and be a voice of the community to help shape this document and make Superior a independent but part of the community and join the rest of the municipalities around our region to have a home charter.
Thank you. Dalton Villette, Chair of the Home Rule Commission. I was born in Louisville, raised in Superior, and I wanted to be a part of this commission because I've seen the growth that Superior has had. I've seen the entire Boulder County area in particular grow incredibly over these many years, and I think it's time for Superior to adapt and mature as all of our neighboring municipalities have done so. I'm currently also a part of our Historical Commission and the subcommittee on the Marshall Fire Memorial.
Great. My name is Mike Foster. Excuse me. I am currently the chair of ACES, which is the Advisory Committee for Environmental Sustainability, and also the vice chair for the Home Rule Commission. And the reason why I joined Home Rule was because being part of a foundation is really important, especially setting up a document that is going to enable the town to continue and function long after we have moved on in life is a pretty special thing to be a part of. And so I'm just very grateful that I'm able to be a part of this and help shape the future of Superior.
Chris Hansen, former two-term trustee with the town, lived in Superior for 26 years. Had a very keen interest in the Home Rule Committee when I was a trustee, and just happy to be part of this and hopefully help the town become more self-sufficient and have more control over what we do moving forward.
Hi, Clint Folsom. I'm also a 26-year resident of the town of Superior and served for 6 years on the Planning Commission and served 8 years as mayor, term limited in 2022. Learned about home rule while I was serving as mayor and learned about its benefits, and just very excited that the Board of Trustees elected to move forward with drafting a town's charter, and I'm honored to be part of the process.
And then Claire.
Hi, my name is Claire Dixon. I'm a resident of the town of Superior for 13 years, and I'm also a small business owner in Superior. And I was invited by a board member to run for the Home Rule Commission. And I decided to do that to represent business owners in the town and also just to learn more about how the town is run. And I failed to mention I was also on the Cultural Arts and Public Spaces Committee.
Thank you very much, everyone. With that, I believe we can move on to our presentation, and I believe we have a PowerPoint. Can we potentially screen share that on here just to go through it?
Do you want me to just pull up here?
Yeah, that'd be excellent.
Let's see where- Sorry.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. And as Matt is getting that all set up, I can mention, thank you, Heather. We also have another member who is not in attendance here, Jeff Chu. He has previously been involved in town politics for a number of years, including as a Board of Trustee member.
Technical.
Yeah. And Catherine, would you like to make a brief introduction? You can, yeah.
While Matt figures it out.
Yeah.
My name's Catherine Sellers. I'm from Hoffman, Parker, Wilson, Carberry, the town attorney for the town of Superior, and I'm serving as special counsel to the Home Rule Charter Commission. And you're my 5th commission, I believe, representing, so.
Thank you.
This mouse isn't working, sorry.
Huh? Oh, you have.
Sorry, I just stole it.
There you go.
I just wanted to see you something.
I also emailed you a bit earlier, Matt, if you need to find it there.
Did you email that to Martin?
No. I mean, Martin should have the presentation too.
No. Sorry. Was it last updated recently?
It's been like 2 weeks since any major updates have happened.
Okay. The last one I have is on April 4th.
Yeah, that should be the most updated one.
Sorry, I can't see from here.
I think it's under,
Down on the lower right.
There's a lower right next to the
yeah.
slider bar.
There we
Yep.
go. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So we've worked on creating a presentation just to go over home rule itself, the work that we all have been doing, some of the topics that are addressed in the charter and those that aren't. And then we'll open it up for public comment and discussion. So next slide. This presentation will be focusing on a variety of items related to home rule, the commission, the charter itself, and other areas of potential interest for the residents of Superior. The agenda items here are an overview of home rule, a history of home rule in Colorado and Superior, the Home Rule Commission and the charter itself, what's changing and what's staying the same, the timeline for home rule in Superior, frequently asked questions, additional resources, and then opportunities for further questions from the general public. And before an overview of the home rule itself, I wanted to kind of issue a bit of a summary or a general pitch for home rule for residents who are maybe unsure about it itself and about favoring home rule in the months ahead and at the upcoming November election. Plainly put, our summary for home rule and why we want residents to be in support of this is because of the following. The town's adoption of a home rule charter would afford Superior with additional powers which have long been made available to our neighboring municipalities. The Board of Trustees decided to pursue this now after many years of past efforts, thanks in part to actions from the State Assembly and with an aim to offer our local government and residents better control and transparency. And an overview of home rule, we can start with what exactly is home rule. In its simplest definition, home rule is a form of government detailed in Article 20 of the Colorado Constitution, in which the local citizens are the ones who govern the town that they live in, not the state legislature. The powers of a home rule municipality come from a charter or a constitution approved of by the residents and in an election. This differs from how the town of Superior is currently structured as a statutory municipality, meaning that Superior has to rely on the state legislature to deal with, quote, local and municipal matters. This also means that Superior does not have a charter or a central governing document and must rely on what has already been approved of by the state legislature to make decisions, determine how it's governed, and prohibit Superior from exercising too much autonomy. Next slide. Now, if you'll notice earlier, I said local and municipal matters, and that's what home rule municipalities have over exclusive jurisdiction of. The other classifications of authority include statewide concern and mixed concern. Statewide concerns, home rule municipalities don't have a say over, while mixed concerns, depending on the issue, in some circumstances, they could apply. But for simplicity's sake, we'll be focusing exclusively on local and municipal concerns. And there are several areas that constitute local and municipal concerns. Arguably, the most prominent and impactful ones are the structure of the current government, zoning, sales and use tax, budgeting of anticipated revenue, capital improvements, eminent domain, mass transit within municipal limits, and voter qualifications. So as you can see from this just fairly short list, home rule can offer a significant number of changes to what the town chooses to do or exercise its powers over, or crucially, not choose to. But how did this all start? We need to go back, all the way back. Municipal home rule was first adopted by the voters in 1902, with additional clarification on the duties of home rule being enacted in 1912. Yet we can go all the way back prior to Colorado's statehood to see how home rule came to dominate municipalities throughout the centennial state. Denver was granted a territorial charter in 1861, and Denver, along with other towns during Colorado's territorial period, were able to be grandfathered into the state with their territorial charters. And a fun fact, Georgetown remains the only municipality which is still governed by its territorial charter, written in 1868. Denver's territorial charter would be amended in the newly formed Colorado State Assembly, seeing amendments added and friction increase between municipal governing bodies and the state. This friction came to a boiling point around 1891, when the state had effectively taken over Denver's public improvement projects, public safety, and similar municipal activities. Armed conflict would actually break out in 1894 over then Governor David H. Haight's executive appointments to Denver's fire and police commissioner boards, and local leaders knew something had to be done. A growing movement in the progressive era called for greater autonomy amongst more local leaders and governments, along with a consolidation of cities and counties to reduce bureaucracy. With the support of Governor James Orman and Denver Senator John A. Rush, legislation was passed in 1901 and then sent to the voters for approval for home rule. This would allow for other cities the right to adopt local charters and become home rule themselves. And the amendments to create and adopt home rule, when initially passed 59.75% to 25.76%. And we have a quote from Governor James Orman's inaugural address in which he praised home rule and its effectiveness in the years ahead. Now, home rule has continued to proliferate across the state since then, which brings us to today. Over 100 cities and towns have adopted home rule, representing 93% of the state's municipal population. Superior's neighboring municipalities have all adopted home rule, including Arvada, Boulder, Broomfield, Erie, Lafayette, Longmont, Louisville, and Westminster. Over the decades, Colorado voters have regularly supported home rule in clarifying and expanding its options for municipalities and voters alike. Most recently, more importantly, there has never been an instance where a town and its residents have voted to repeal their home rule status. There are still many measures a town may wish to adopt which are not covered by the authority of home rule. However, home rule has overall strengthened local control of local and municipal matters and offered greater flexibility and effectiveness for local leaders to address local issues. The decision for a municipality to adopt home rule shouldn't be taken lightly and should be trusted to a thorough and thoughtful home rule commission. Hopefully we got that. And comprised of individuals who are knowledgeable, effective, and fast acting to ensure success in crafting a charter. And now, as we look at a timeline of home rule in Superior, we can probably include all of these different items here. On July 10th of last year, the Board of Trustees unanimously approved a special election for the creation of a home rule commission. The subsequent 2023 election saw residents vote to approve the creation of this home rule commission, 62% to 37%. And our work as the commission began in earnest in December. Since then, we have been busy working diligently to craft a charter, which I think we all agree is pretty darn good. And today is our public hearing on April 18th. Between now and then, we have some other key dates. The commission will be finalizing this charter at our upcoming meeting on May 2nd. And then there will be the November 5th election, which will see the residents of Superior approving or rejecting the charter that we have been working on. And between now and this election, we will be made available to answer any sort of questions or comments, but residents should be made aware once we have finalized the charter on May 2nd, that's it. We would not be able to make changes for it, but we would be more than happy to engage with residents at local events, such as the 4th of July event at the community park, to encourage residents to read the charter, become educated and knowledgeable about it, and again, ask any questions that might come up. And who exactly are we as a commission? We, as the commission, were each elected in last year's special election. We've met multiple times over the last several months to craft this charter. And again, I cannot stress this enough, we will be around to answer questions, and we'll be more than happy to have a dialogue with residents at this public hearing moving forward. If the charter is to pass in the upcoming election, we will formally be disbanded and our term will end. If, however, this charter is rejected, you won't be finished with us and we'll be called back to rewrite the charter and address what we could do better with the document. And I think none of us want that to happen. Surprising we have elected officials who actually don't want to cling on to their position for too long. But all of the residents right now have access to review the full charter document. It's available on the town's website. It's been included in all of our agendas, so residents can also see the progress and the changes that we have made to this document over each of our meetings. And the charter itself cannot be voted in piecemeal, crucially. It must be approved or rejected on by voters as an entire single document. And this document will act as Superior's central governing document, in many ways a constitution for the town. As such, the charter can be designed to be broad and general or narrow and specific. And it's a fine line to write a charter which can address specific local and municipal concerns while also being general enough to allow for flexibility in governing functions. It should simultaneously free the town from state legislative mandates of local and municipal concern while having enough restrictions in place to reduce the risk of government corruption. The charter can also signal what is most important to the residents through their values as Superior residents. Now, this brings us to the actual contents of the charter. What's in it, what's changing, what's staying the same. And as we met and wrote and edited the charter, the consensus view became to not disrupt town processes or overhaul the governing structure of the town itself. So Superior will remain a town as opposed to a city. The mayor and the trustees will all continue to serve their respective terms. Elections are going to stay the same along with the town boundaries, the absence of wards, taxes will remain the same, and voting processes as well will remain the same. So the average resident of Superior, once approving of the Home Rule Charter, will not see suddenly town functions or operations be completely overhauled. And now, what exactly is going to be changing? Frankly, not much for the average resident. The Board of Trustees will be getting a name change. It will change its name to the Town Council. We could have gone with Alderman, but I think we decided not to go that route. We've expressly included safeguards towards protecting town rights and liberties, water rights, open space, and the creation, modification, or the dissolving of different advisory committees. We've expanded the number of individuals in town who can run for public office, and we've added additional clarity on positions that should be held by individuals in town. Clarifications and processes have been included to address concerns from the state, such as recalls and referendums. And now if there's something within the charter that residents would be, for whatever reason, vehemently opposed to or wish to include subsequently, there are processes in place for residents to actually add or modify the charter through a ballot election process. Now, over the course of our work, we've received a number of different questions from residents, and we wanted to highlight some of these examples moving forward. Some of the main topics on current issues have been RMMA and HOAs. The charter does not say anything specifically about any of the above issues. Specifically with RMMA, this would not be deemed a local or municipal concern. As for some of the other topics, such as gun rights, off-leash dogs, business friendliness, the charter doesn't address these above issues specifically. That would be up to the town to enact any sort of specific ordinances to address these topics. And when it comes to open space, eminent domain, and affordable housing, Article 12 of the charter is devoted exclusively to open space. Eminent domain is mentioned in Article 13, giving the town the rights of eminent domain for municipal purposes. And now this does not create any new authority over home rule that other home rule municipalities don't already have. And when it comes to affordable housing, it's not explicitly mentioned, but the charter would grant Superior greater say on zoning rights, which could impact affordable housing options moving forward. And now everyone should know that approving the charter will not raise taxes. The financial costs for this process as well has been estimated to be around $42,500 to account for town staff time, attorney's fees, and coordination with Boulder County for the 2023 special election. And as for some of the risks of adopting the charter, those have hopefully all been addressed through our writing process and editing process, avoiding the creation of too restrictive a document while also having areas of explicit detail to avoid confusion in the future. We wanted a charter to, above all else, guide governments and residents over the years and bolster transparency. And if you would like, we have ample resources available to residents between now and the election. If you want to learn more about home rule, the charter, or reach out to us as a full commission. More than anything, and I hope this presentation has helped with this, is we are offering residents a chance to learn more about this process and know it's not reinventing the wheel. It's not going to result in dramatic changes for the average Superior resident, but it's an important and necessary sign of growing maturity and autonomy for the town of Superior. I would urge everyone in Superior to read our charter document, as I encourage all Americans to read the United States Constitution. Each of these documents do not address every issue that residents or citizens may face, but are essential governing texts for smooth, efficient, and transparent government. And proud to say, in taking the U.S. Constitution to heart, our charter isn't even that long. This is not an enormous legal document. It's written in plain language. It's structured and organized in a way that can promote ease of readability for the average resident. And right now, at just 30 pages, a resident could sit down and read it all in one sitting if they desire. We hope that this is a document more than anything that we can be proud of as Superior residents and look to for information and guidance on specific topics and assist with Superior's growth and evolution in the years to come. And with that, this kind of concludes our presentation, and I believe we may open it up to public comment. And individuals are encouraged to make public comments, but please be respectful of the 5-minute time limit in making statements, either in person or virtually. And please be respectful of commissioners' time and town staff time during the meeting itself. Any questions from the public can be asked of commissioners and town staff before and after the meeting, and we will be having a discussion after these public comments. So, anyone in the room would like to make a public comment? You have the opportunity to do so now. And all I ask is state your name and town of residence.
Good evening. My name is Mike Novick. I live in Superior. I've been following you guys a little bit since the election, and I've been attempted or wanted to come to some of the meetings, and I haven't, unfortunately. And I had looked at some of the agendas, and there's a lot of detail in all that was got put together. So I commend you on a job probably well done. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I do intend to. Yep. I wanted to come and kind of hear what the presentation was about. And I just have a couple comments that I made or notes that I wrote down. Mm-hmm. I was interested in a little bit more specifically the difference between current rules and regulations and what the charter offers. You kind of went through that at a high level. I don't know if it's really that broad, but I was more interested more specifically where would be more restriction, where less restrictions, what are the, pros and cons of differences, if there's any kind of real key things. That was kind of question I had. I was curious if the neighboring communities, if their charters were looked at, and if those were used as a model, and if so, why? If not, why? Also, I was curious if there was any discussion with those communities, either their charter writing members or just asking their current legislative bodies if they would have done anything different, or what would they wish they had done had they known now what they did when they did it. So I just was curious if those questions were asked. And I just you had mentioned that if there are changes, it has to go through a ballot election process. So I just was a little curious more, what would that entail? Would that be like a vote to amend the charter and then there would be another committee or something? So I just was curious if there was one provision that needed to be changed. Would that be posted and voted on, or is it the whole thing? So those are just a couple things that I was curious about. I voted for it back then to move forward, and I think it's great. So I'm just curious to read it, and maybe some of my questions will be answered. I'll have more actually after reading it.
Any other public comments?
Where's the button for, oh, it's already on. I haven't been on the slide. Stephanie Miller, resident of Superior. Just a quick question with regards to where you landed on the supermajority versus just a majority to remove any sort of key staff on the town, and then how you arrived at that. Concerns being around, obviously losing any sort of key staff would be extremely disruptive to town functions and how we do business. So just wanted to see if it's supermajority or majority and what your thoughts are around that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? All right. Do we have any comments on Zoom?
I don't see anybody with their hand raised right now.
All right. Going once, back to the boardroom. Any other comments? Once, twice. All right. I think we can open this up then to discussion, and we had some terrific questions actually. So as far as kind of current rules, I'll address some of these, and please feel free to pipe in with any sort of additional details that you'd like to add. As far as like current rules and regulations and what the charter offers, we were explicit in some specific areas such as referendums and recalls. We added a decent amount of details on the processes in place on what residents can do or not do and any sort of specific key dates that they should be mindful of. Kind of the philosophy with this section was we wanted all this information to be compiled into a single area so residents can know where to find information related to this and not have to be kind of bouncing around looking for information related to this in multiple different places. One of the areas too we had a decent amount of debate on related to open space and what the town could do when it came to the acquisition of such, the rezoning of such, and the disposal of it. So we added some specific details in there. Less, I would say, on the actual acquisition of it, just kind of given Superior's boundaries and looking at what are some of the potential properties, but what Superior could be doing as far as transparency goes, mechanisms for disposing of it or rezoning open space, and making sure Superior residents have a voice in a lot of these discussions moving forward. And there is also a lot of overlap between Superior's legal duties and rights when it comes to open space and those with some of our other neighboring municipalities in Boulder County when it comes to rezoning, reclassifying, or disposing of open space. As far as what we kind of reined back on, there were some charters. I personally read some charters from Denver Boulder that had exhaustive details on a lot of areas that just were not specifically relevant to Superior. Some of them related to mass transit within the jurisdictional boundaries. We don't have an exhaustive section on that. We wanted to allow flexibility for the town moving forward to enact any sort of additional ordinances if they wanted to adapt and change the current operations of the town in that area. When it comes to some of the neighboring municipalities, I believe all of us read multiple different charters. One of kind of our first homework assignments was to kind of identify a specific charter that we would use as basically a guiding charter. So we would start with the language of this charter that we would choose and then work our way through it, editing and modifying it, pulling details from Severance, from Louisville, from Erie, Eagle, to create a charter that really represented Superior. I think, Catherine, correct me if I'm wrong, the process that we kind of went in choosing our guiding charter and the structure was a little bit unique compared to some of the experiences that you've had when it came to that initial kind of structure.
Yeah, I think the method in which you employed was a bit broader than most home rule commissions. They usually choose one and that's it. You guys pulled from a bunch of different charters that you reviewed. You had about 6 or 7, I think you were kind of looking at with Erie. Erie and Eagle were drafted back to back, both we assisted with that in those communities. And so they were very similar, but you could see those changes. And so you guys drew a little bit more from multiple charters.
And then I know a number of us each had also discussed with different members or even attended certain events of past Home Rule Commission meetings as their own processes were moving forward to see what worked, what didn't work. I know, and I will speak kind of anecdotally and personally on this, one of the main discussions that we highlighted and debated on was the inclusion of wards in Superior. And I spoke with some residents and some other members in Louisville about the wards and the feasibility of such. We had some other discussions here, and we spoke with Catherine at length kind of about the feasibility of that, ultimately choosing not to go the route of including wards in this charter. But that was all taken into very serious consideration, looking at what were some areas of concern, and there was also areas that didn't apply to Superior when it came to the transition from a statutory municipality to a home rule municipality. We were very keen to avoid for litigation. We wanted to make sure that everything moving forward would be smooth, efficient, not disrupt any of kind of Superior's current operations. And then as far as the ballot process goes, that would just require residents to, you can look at some specific documentation in the charter itself about creating a ballot to address maybe a specific section within the charter that residents would like to see amended, changed, removed, or any sort of additional changes added to the charter. And there are some provisions and language in the charter that we use specifically. The verbiage is such because it's from, let's say, the Colorado Constitution, and we wanted to make sure that we were covering all of our legal bases, so that's why there's some keyword choices used in specific sections, but we still wanted to kind of hew towards the side of not making this a cumbersome legal document that the average resident couldn't just pick up and read and basically ascertain all the key points from. And then another question was the supermajority and majority decision on removing town staff. We had a lot of debate and discussion on this point. For consistency's sake, each of the different positions are a majority vote. For the upcoming town council, for town manager, town attorney, things like that, that was just decided for all these areas. And I believe the only item that requires a supermajority moving forward is any sort of emergency ordinance from the town council. Did I miss any sort of key points or areas, or anyone to chime in on any of these kind of points or questions? I know I was throwing a lot out there. I'm sorry.
The amendment process.
Oh, the amendment process. You want to take that away?
Not really.
Sure. I've been yammering on and on. I need to drink real fast.
So the charter can be amended either through like the town council referring a question to the voters, or it can be initiated by the citizens if they want to see an amendment. And it's just whatever's being amended. So the question would just be, you know, section 3 should be amended to state this or whatever. There is a process to actually repeal, as Dalton mentioned previously, repeal the whole home rule charter. That's in state law. But that's, if you want to see what a charter amendment election looks like, you can look at Inglewood's from last November. They had several charter questions on their ballot, so.
Can I ask a couple of follow-up questions?
Sure. Yeah, I believe that's more than all right. Come on up, yep.
While you're coming up, I'll just add that on your question about the, you know, which charters were looked at and how do we use those as models, we specifically wanted to kind of put an emphasis on charters that were newer. So Eagles was drafted in 2020, Erie in 2023, and the idea there was to kind of capture the I guess the best and latest practices. Some older charters have run into things where they're kind of conflicting with things over time. So we wanted to kind of use the ones that were kind of had best practices. So that was part of our procedure for choosing that.
Great, thanks. I did, Mike Novick again, live in Superior. Just two real quick questions. I mean, you mentioned the guiding charter, you just didn't say which jurisdiction. I'd be curious to know which one it was. And then second, the only other thing that kind of has been, I've heard it mentioned in a couple of different things, it's been there's the planning commission or board, but I just was wondering, is there any addressing of short-term rentals? That seems to be kind of a real hot topic, you know, Airbnb, things of that nature. I just was wondering how this addresses that, if at all. Thank you.
So we used Erie and Eagle are like great examples because those are the ones we looked at as far as structure of the charter goes, and then the actual content. The two, Erie and Eagle, were fairly similar as far as content goes. A lot of these charters have a lot of sections that are very similar, if not identical in language. Those were the two that ultimately we really relied on. I would say more than anything, that we did similarly pull from a number of different other charters moving forward. We pulled information from Severance, Boulder, and as far as like short-term rental goes, the charter doesn't say anything specifically about that area, but I mean, it does allow for greater autonomy and Superior to make any sort of decisions through ordinances when it comes to zoning rights in that area.
Dalton, I'll just add that the charter, with the exception of the disposal of open space, the charter really does not get into specific town operations. We really leave that to future elected officials to determine what ordinances are appropriate for that period of time. So we tried to keep this broad and provide flexibility for future elected officials to decide on things that are important based on the values of the community 50, 100, 200 years from now. So we really tried to stay away from addressing specific issues because we know those change over time. And to the point about the elections, while we did discuss the concept of wards, the way we crafted language about elections, we leave it open so that future boards, if they so choose to move to proportional voting, as an example, or move to a district-based voting mechanism, the future town boards would have that ability to make those decisions if they deem that important.
I'll just add a little more context to Trustee Miller's question about the decision to make staff changes, just supermajority or just regular vote. And we landed on just a majority vote. And one of the big reasons was because that's the way it's done now. And one of the kind of key points we talked about through the process was we wanted to be very conscientious of not changing things to the degree that it became, that a single issue or a handful of issues became a kind of a hot potato that kind of hung people up and said, I can't support this charter. This charter is all or nothing. And so if we potentially put something in there that became a real sticking point for some, and there were some some discussion here on the commission that if we did that, it might hang them up. And so we thought, well, that could certainly extend to the community. So kind of a guiding principle on this and several other issues as we went through the whole process was, let's be very, very deliberate about if we're going to make a change, make sure it's going to make sense to make a change from the way it's been done now. And we did that in a couple of cases, but going into the discussion, myself and Chris were definitely had some concerns about, hey, we've got key staff. We don't want to have, we were kind of pushing for the supermajority, but then as the discussion went around, we kind of came around to a consensus. So it was a great discussion, and I appreciate everybody's very thoughtful comments on that.
Any other details or discussion points?
Just maybe we want to just touch a little bit more on the open space part. I think you had a really good overview on it, but the point of the lengthy discussion and having a specific section on open space is that we want to preserve open space. It's very valuable to the town. We want to make sure that it stayed in place, but it still gives the residents the ability to do something with open space by going to a vote and making a change. But it was really important that we've got this great open space. We want to make sure that we keep it as long as we can.
I know one of the areas when we did talk about open space was whether or not there were specific kind of sizes of open space that we should put towards the voters and potential voters would have a say in, or should we just exclude that detail entirely? Some charters had specifically said the town can do whatever they want, basically, with land that's designated as such if it's, let's say, under half an acre. And we had a lot of discussions on should we have a half-acre principle similar to other municipalities? Should we exclude that provision because there were some properties and kind of parcels in Superior that are underneath that half an acre. And our thought process was we wanted to give Superior residents kind of the most say in one of the areas that we think is of tremendous value to Superior residents in the open space. Residents seem to want to come here and live here because of access to open space. A fun fact that I learned through this kind of charter process was out of all the Boulder County municipalities, Superior is the one that per person has the highest percentage of open space based on its geographic size, beating even Boulder. So that's something I think Superior residents should be extremely proud of, and that's why we have an entire section dedicated to it. And that was something we debated, should we have a section on it or not at the onset? And ultimately we decided to include that because we do think open space is important to the residents.
I'll just add another detail here. One thing that we picked up in all of this is that the original ballot language for the open space didn't have any language about disposition of open space. So it said there's money for it, but there wasn't any rule or anything that said the town couldn't make a decision to dispose of that if they so chose. Now, there's a lot of other protections that are out there for open space. So, for example, Coyote Ridge, Boulder County has an easement with, owns it with, Superior and Jefferson County. So the town couldn't just go sell Coyote Ridge today, even before the charter. But if all three said, yeah, there's a reason why we should develop that, then all three could have agreed to dispose of that property without a vote of the citizens that had paid the tax that had, or, been in the town that had the tax that that enabled us to purchase that. So it was that. And then the recent lots around the creek, those are held by the town, but it was also with Mile High Flood District. So it would, they chipped in for the parts that were in the floodplain. So again, it wouldn't just be we could go sell all of these lots because there were other considerations. But it just provides more protection that if some idea floated and something were to happen, it would have to go to a vote and not allow any other way for that to really be disposed, which I'm proud of the decision we got to on that. So appreciate the discussion. Oh.
And do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I mean, I did some interviews of all of the current trustees. I got their opinions on several of the issues that were laid out in the charter. Back to Clint's point about how do we make this passable in the general election, but also protect the town in the future, was becoming an overriding decision for all of us. We could have made a decision to go to wards. We could have made a decision to change the petition thresholds. We decided to keep as much stable as possible. And as I was talking to the trustees, of course, they all had different opinions on the various issues. That's politics. That's okay. That's what they're elected to do. And we elect them to come make decisions on behalf of the town. But we want to make the structure of how they go about their decisions formalized and protected from the states. And one thing that is a little bit subtle, but I was proud of that we came through this process, was including some state language in our charter in the course of the state changing law, overriding principles. We remain with those principles in our charter. So it'll be an interesting thing as there's legislation coming down from the state, how we're protected from that going forward. And that was a unanimous amongst the trustees, and everyone I've talked to was keeping a language so that we have things that we're concerned about in our hands, and not a statutory city where it may be out of our hands. So I'm really proud of the document. I think we did a great job debating and getting through a lot of these issues. And while it may seem like, well, not much has changed, I think that's kind of the point. So thanks.
And I would actually kind of like to, not to put everyone on the spot, but I would love to just know from each of the different commissioners, what has been maybe the section or the part of the process with this that you're most proud of, that you like to see that we included, didn't include, or just went through the motions to work with throughout this process. I'll start reverse this time, so.
Okay. One of the things that I learned about when I was serving as mayor was the ability of home rule cities to collect their own sales tax and then audit retailers. And that just made a lot of sense to me and was one of the big reasons that I wanted to have the town explore home rule many years back. It didn't get traction for a variety of reasons. And so I kind of went into this process really excited to kind of get that piece addressed. And as it happens, a lot has changed at the state level in the last couple of years surrounding the state creating a system to basically help cities, whether you're home rule or statutory around the state, do more centralized sales tax collection. And it really helps with the hundreds of thousands of retailers that are dealing with all these different municipalities and jurisdictions to get it right and get collections right. So the state has done a lot to kind of help that process, but I do think through home rule, we're going to be in a better position to perhaps initiate some audits on local retailers and really make sure that we're getting that Superior is getting paid what we're supposed to be getting paid. That's the whole point of self-collection of sales taxes, is getting the money that is rightfully ours. So that's happy to be part of the process for that and many other sections. Chris.
I guess the thing that I was most excited about with this committee was just the people that we worked with. It was just really good. I mean, everybody is very different, but it's such an intelligent group, and it was really fun to work with these folks. And we didn't always agree. I mean, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, we shouldn't agree on everything, but we always came to a final solution. And this charter I think it's really good, and I'm very happy with it. One of the things that I guess I found, I took myself by surprise is that coming into this, I was really wanted to make sure that we had control over zoning and that there was transparency in everything that the town does moving forward, and that residents had a say in everything and could take action if they wanted to. But I found myself gravitating more towards the open space, and that the whole Article 12, Claire took a big lead on that, and her comments really inspired me to be behind this more. So I thought it was just, that was the best part of this for me, was just preserving the open space and taking action on that.
I don't know that I have a favorite section, but I think one of the things we kept coming back to is sort of our guiding principles about what this document means for today and what it means for the town 50 or 100 years from now. So I think that's one of the things I'm most proud of, is that this can be a very forward-looking document, or it could be a very looking at today's issues document. And so that provides flexibility for generations to come, and I think that's one of the things that I'm really, really proud of, is that we're not locking ourselves into today's issues.
And I mean, to everyone's points so far, and I'm sure everyone's subsequent points, it's been an absolute pleasure being able to work with all of these incredibly knowledgeable and insightful individuals. This has genuinely been a fun process. I know it's like these meetings could get very long. They would go for 3 hours, and I think a lot of individuals could easily get bored in a process like this, but I thought the debates were always cordial, civil, fact and intellectual based in the disagreements and reasoning behind them through all of our own experience as longtime or new time residents to the area, and also experiences from current or previously held elected positions. And I really admired just the consensus view that we're able to approach so many of these topics that could have been really divisive and controversial, and we're able to come to agreement on a number of different areas. And I was always surprised on some of the areas that we would go into, and maybe I thought, oh, this is going to be maybe kind of the hot button issue, and this is going to get a lot of controversy. And then it's like, nope, that one we all were in agreement on, moved on from it pretty quickly. And then whether it's a approval or a negative vote on a matter, if a member of the town council recused themselves, would become an area of heated debate and discussion that I had not even thought about as much going prior into this. So I love just kind of the forethought that everyone was able to bring to this, and then also honestly, kind of the surprises that came along the way that made this a really engaging and I think wholly unique experience for, I know, myself, and I hope kind of for everyone else here.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the stuff I said earlier is what I'm proud of. I think I'll just add on that I really appreciate Catherine and town staffs. Various people would come in and out on the town staff side, but Catherine's been here really helping us understand the legal side of things and understanding what would work and not work, and would that stand up in court and that sort of thing. So that was really helpful, and really appreciate your time here.
So for me, open space, obviously, big one. It was interesting. I learned what ranked choice voting means, and actually really understood how it works, right? At first you hear this concept and you're like, your votes actually count more in ranked choice voting, but until you actually have to sit and study it and really like dig in, it's hard to understand what that means, but I actually took the time to do that. So we didn't say that elections need to be ranked choice, but we left that open. And if you're ever interested, it's a really interesting topic. And I like to geek out on things. So I wrote a bunch of stuff in Excel, and I actually did like election simulations and saw how the votes would go either way to try to understand this. So it was anyway, sometimes that's how I spend my free time. I probably shouldn't admit that, but it was really interesting. So I can show you the results of this. And it was interesting though, because some of the elections changed the outcome. Like if there were 5 people for 2 slots, the elections would change based on popular vote versus ranked choice voting. And it was not like 1 in 10, it was actually fairly often. So it was pretty interesting. I really enjoyed the ward conversation. I at first I thought, wards, it was going to be a good chance that we would go that way. But after really thinking through it and getting thinking about it, I think we got to the best decision there. So anyway, I learned a ton about how all this works, and so I appreciate it. And I think we have a great charter.
I will be probably surprised by my own comments, but I honestly went after we all did our research and read through many other charters that are obviously in existence. My whole premise with this great commission that I get to work with was really to keep it simple. And I think we really did a good job of that, really addressing both sides of every issue and making sure that we left the best possible outcome for any conversation. A lot of the ones that we all, I think, were gravitating towards when it came to sample ones to look at or guiding drafts were heavy on the open space, and that was not something that was in my bandwidth. It was not something I thought. But after learning from many of these people, as has already been said, I'm very proud of that section of this document because I think it's something that will be long-standing and continue to make Superior the fabulous town that we all are proud to live in. So good work, my friends.
And Claire?
Oops. Hi. So I will just echo what many of you have already addressed, that I was just pleased that I felt like we were all on the same page when it came to wanting to create a document that was simple, that was readable, user-friendly, made sense, and not too wordy, and left a lot of flexibility. What we did was take things out, that we decided were not necessary, didn't need to be in there. We very thoroughly compared what we were including with what is the current municipal code, what is Colorado state law, what makes sense for us, and my guiding principle, if we're going to make some change, it needs to be something that we can communicate very clearly to the voters why this is important to make this change, and have people understand that. It shouldn't be something that's difficult to explain or difficult to get people support for. So I was very happy we all seem to be on the same page there, and I do think we succeeded in creating a very readable and simple, streamlined document. I was a big proponent of including a section on open space. The reason for that was that that is kind of a standard in the charters that are in our neighboring communities. And I wanted our town to be able to signal and communicate that we are in league with our neighbors, and that we share the same values, and that we are like-minded with our neighbors, and that we are a part of this region. So I felt that it was important for us to make that statement. Another section I think we did a great job on was the initiative, referendum, and recall. Really did a deep dive on that and what was really in there. And we were able to point out some things that maybe didn't make sense and make that a lot more user-friendly. So I thought that was great. And it's been a great experience, and I've really enjoyed working with my fellow commissioners.
Really quick, Claire, I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit there. You found some amazing hidden issues that were old legacy state statute stuff that didn't make any sense at all. And to streamline the petition and recall and referendum process, I think you did a stellar job of comparing that. So bravo.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And any other kind of discussion items anyone would like to chime in on? Otherwise, I thought real fast if we could just look at maybe even a section of the charter. We've talked about it is brief in document, but you'll see it's not even very lengthy paragraphs. There's some decent white space in some of these sections. This is genuinely meant to be a document for readability purposes for the average resident. So I would strongly encourage all the residents who are in attendance, who are watching this in a recorded session at a later date, who are watching this now, to read the charter if you want to in its entirety. It's not meant to be an overwhelming or an intimidating document. And please do so now because we are having our final meeting coming up at the start of May. So if there is language or a specific section that you really would like some clarification on or changes, this is the time to do so. We will be meeting again to address any sort of topics or requested kind of changes or modifications that we as commissioners have and that the general public kind of sends our way. We want to continuously be in dialogue with residents and make sure that this is a Superior document for Superior. I had to make the pun. But I do strongly, again, urge everyone to just read this document. And I really cannot thank everyone enough for all of their tremendous insight and support for all of the Colorado residents who have come in and given tremendous input and insight in their public comments throughout this entire process from day one on to today. Thank you so much for making this engaging and thoughtful, and really appreciate everything Matt, Martin, Lydia, Morgan, and Catherine have all been able to do to make this a truly memorable process. And something I think Superior residents should be incredibly proud of when they go to vote on this in the upcoming November election. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor of adjourning this public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, this public hearing is adjourned.